Welcome back to the next team in our series of What If, where we look at potential starting 11s for a team if they hadn't sold all of their star players. Next up is Lyon, so let's get straight into it. First off, and in goal, it's Hugo Lloris. He's a French World Cup winner, the captain of the national team, and had an unbelievable 4 years as the #1 keeper at Lyon. Debatably one of the best goalkeepers in Lyon's history, and certainly the best that is still currently active within the game, so he takes the #1 spot. Moving into the defence, and it's a 3-man central defence. On the right-hand side of it is Dejan Lovren. Now, after moving on from Lyon, he actually went to Southampton and had a pretty good season, so much so that Liverpool bought him. This, though, is where the inconsistencies began, and he became a bit of a meme at some stages. He started well, went through a poor patch, and in the last few years has been to a World Cup final with Croatia, has got a Champions League winners' medal with Liverpool, and is looking like a more solid centre-back in his latter years. At the moment, I'm pretty sure he'd have a pretty strong case to start in this Lyon 11. Alongside him though, and it's Samuel Umtiti, who spent some fantastic years at Lyon through their youth academy before moving on to Barcelona. At the moment, there's a bit of suggestion that he may be leaving the new camp, and with all these questions around his future, maybe move back to Lyon is a pretty good idea. After all, Lyon was the place where he scored one of the most ridiculous goals that the world has ever seen, with a stunning half volley against Spurs in the Europa League. Alongside this, he's one of the best defenders in La Liga. He's probably one of the top 20 defenders in Europe, has the World Cup winners' medal, has loads of other trophies with Barcelona, so I'm pretty sure most teams would take him. Next up, and after loans at Celtic, 2 at Galatasaray and at Sunderland, it looked like Jason Denayer wasn't exactly going to get his breakthrough at parent club Manchester City, so a move to Lyon a couple of years ago actually did him well, and now he's become an absolute beast. Not only at club level is he really excelling, but on the international stage too, where someone's got to take over the likes of Vermaelen, Alderweireld, Vertonghen and company's defensive duties for the Belgian national team. Denayer is doing that at the moment, and speaking of other defenders, we could have also had Ferland Mendy, although he's technically not really a left-sided centre-back, and even though he has moved to Real Madrid this summer, the start of his career at the Bernabeu has been blighted with a few injuries, so I'm going to stick with Denayer for the moment. So moving into the midfield now, and there's so many choices, it actually makes the central midfield positions ridiculously difficult. Not only have Lyon had great midfielders throughout their whole history, they've also had a ridiculously good amount of midfielders within the last 10 or so years, those that are still currently active in world football. That's exactly what we're doing in this starting 11, picking only the players that are there. Otherwise, I definitely would have had Juninho in this team. Anyway, moving on to the central midfielder, and it's someone who's still fresh in the memory of Lyon fans and players, and it's Tanguy Ndombele. 60 million euros was the amount of money that took him to Spurs in the summer, and he's already shown glimpses of what all Lyon fans know, that he could be a top central midfielder. He's that good that Zinedine Zidane is apparently pretty pissed off that the management at the Bernabeu didn't manage to bring him to Real Madrid over the summer. Looks like he definitely knows what he is talking about, and that Ndombele will go on to be a brilliant signing. So alongside Ndombele, and I've got to admit, it's someone that definitely deserves more credit, it's Miralem Pjanic. Now, I know what you're going to say, of course he's getting the credit, he's at one of the biggest teams in Europe, but I'm not so sure. Throughout all the titles that Juventus win, there's always a big name, there's always the star striker, the goal-getter, the brilliant, skillful attacker, and sometimes I feel like Pjanic is a little bit underrated. That's just my opinion, but with the creativity, with the vision, with the ball playing that he's got, he is an unbelievable midfielder and should definitely be regarded as one. Lyon, I'm sure, would have him in a heartbeat just now. Even former Lyon legend Juninho, who I mentioned earlier, said back in 2015 that Pjanic is the best free kick taker in the world. That's pretty high regard coming from someone like Juninho, who couldn't half hit a bad free kick himself. Before we move on to the attacking midfield though, there is also Corentin Tolisso, who left in the past few seasons, but he hasn't exactly been in the most consistent of form for Bayern Munich with injuries and being in and out of the side, so he doesn't quite make it. So on to the right hand side of this attacking trio, and it's someone who's not necessarily an out wide player, but more of an inside forward. The actual number 10 role in this team has been taken by someone who's actually taken this player's role in Lyon. If that doesn't quite make sense, I'll clear it up in a minute. But first off, it's former captain Nabil Fekir. A few seasons ago, Nabil Fekir was on fire, and at the end of the year, he travelled to Liverpool to have a medical with the club. Unfortunately, they detected a few injury worries, and it turned out he didn't end up leaving the club. Now, this is especially difficult when a player says their goodbyes and they handed the transfer request and they want to leave. It's difficult to come back into the squad and almost earn their trust. It's doubly difficult when you're the club captain. Somehow though, and credit to him, Fekir managed to get himself back into the team, back into shape, and earn the trust of his teammates. Yes, he didn't have the best season he did the year before, so instead of moving to Liverpool, he moved to Real Betis 1 year later for 25 million. Sounds harsh, but that's the truth. Into the centre now, and it's the player who I said is taking over Fekir's duties in that central area of the park since he left Lyon. It's Houssem Aouar. I've probably said that name a little bit wrong, but that doesn't really matter when all you're going to remember is what a ridiculously good player he is. I say he's taken over the duties of Fekir, not necessarily position, because they are slightly different players and they do pop up all over the attacking midfield areas. With his brilliant ball control, his fantastic passing and his eye for a finish, Aouar is quickly turning into one of the most sought after prospects in Europe. Last season when they played against Manchester City in the Champions League, he gained some admiring glances and some positive comments from Manchester City's Pep Guardiola. That really does tell you something. When a legendary manager such as himself, who knows a good technical midfielder or two, says that, then you must be a pretty good talent. On to the left-hand side, and it's a player who you may not have known actually played at Lyon, because the career he has now is so far away from the 4 appearances he made for the club back in 2013. It's Anthony Martial. He really didn't excel at Lyon at all, so much so that they sold him to Monaco. Obviously, since there, you know how it goes, the move to Manchester United and all of that lark. But he really has turned into a top player now, and I'm pretty sure that Lyon would love to have someone with his ability. Now, we've spoken about at Manchester United before in the last few videos, how Martial really is key to their future. He's got everything that a good striker needs, and if he continues to put all of this form together, those Lyon days will be a distant memory, but the club's fans would have wished they would have held on to him just a little bit longer. And for those of you wondering whether or not you'd seen Anthony Martial in one of these videos recently, you did, because we put together a Monaco 11 with exactly the same rules. That one you can check out right about here. So moving on though, and to the front two, and we start off with an unbelievable talent who really took on the goal scoring burden for the most part of this decade. 7 years service to the club, over 100 goals, and Alexander Lacazette could not be in this Lyon side. He keeps out the likes of Moussa Dembele, who's just not at that level yet, and Memphis Depay, who at the moment is in brilliant form for Lyon, but I'm not really sure he's outdoing the 7 years that Lacazette did. Back in the summer of 2017, he was actually on the verge of moving to Atletico Madrid. Their transfer ban then was handed down to them, meaning they couldn't sign any new players, and instead he went to where he is now, at Arsenal. He struck up a brilliant partnership up front with Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, and Lacazette really does have it all for a forward. It's actually a real shame for him that in the French national side, he's competing against unbelievable talents who are pretty much younger than him, the likes of Griezmann, Dembele, and of course Kylian Mbappe. So who partners Lacazette up front? Karim Benzema. Who else? I always say on this channel that he is criminally underrated. Not only has he bagged over 230 goals for Real Madrid, he's also kept his place in the first team for about 10 years, and all while the most of the time putting up with Cristiano Ronaldo. But before he even moved to Real Madrid, Benzema was banging him in for Lyon. He scored over 100 goals, won countless titles, a double even in 2008, and was just generally one of the hottest prospects in Europe. I really don't blame Lyon for selling him to Real Madrid when they came in with a big bit of money at the time, and if they managed to hold on to him for any longer, he probably would have just left the next summer. Rumours are though that he may be leaving Real Madrid within the next year or two, so maybe a potential return to Lyon is on the cards. So that's all from me for today. Let me know your thoughts on the team down in the comments section and where you think this team would finish in the Champions League and the Ligue A. Of course, if you want to check out more from this series, click here or here, but until next time, I will see you guys later.